Hi everyone, today we're going to take a look at Pop Race, a fairly new diecast manufacturer, been on the scene since 2023, so a very new player to the market. Now I've seen a few of these castings come and go. I actually have never opened one up myself, and I've seen a lot of the artwork that are on the boxes of these, and I think it looks fantastic. They're great illustrations of the castings, but I've never actually come to understand whether or not these are premium die-cast cars. So the casting that I've chose to have a look at is a Skyline. But it's the Skyline station wagon, R34. So for comparison, I do have two other R34s. I've got the first ever miniGT that I purchased, which is the R34 in blue. So it's the miniGT sedan. And then we've also got the Hot Wheels Premium R34. So this is actually, I believe, from the Fast and Furious set.
It don't matter if you win by an
But
inch
then
or a mile.
this is, as we know, the Hot Wheels R34 is not to scale to 1/64, and whereas the Mini GT is to scale. And so that's why there is such a big difference between the two castings, that you can see them side by side. They're completely different size cars, and that is not an optical illusion. Hot Wheels make their castings much bigger, and not necessarily to the 1/64 scale. Now, what I thought was most interesting about the Pop Race was that on the box itself, it actually tells us the scale.
No way.
So like Mini GT, on the box, it doesn't actually say 1/64 anywhere on it. What I'm really looking forward to when opening up this is checking the 1/64 that they've been brave enough to actually label on here. So that is really exciting. The other things that I'm expecting to see, being a premium casting, is it's going to be a full metal construction. I want to see side mirrors. It's definitely on the illustration, so I want to be seeing side mirrors on the casting itself. That's a big difference that you can see immediately between the Hot Wheels and the Mini GT. Hot Wheels does not have any side mirrors, whereas the Mini GT does. The other thing I'm expecting is rubber wheels as well, as a minimum. So I see those as minimum requirements to be a premium diecast. There are other nice to haves which are great to see, and that's obviously high attention to detail in terms of decals and the paint job that's actually used. But other things I like are inserted or plastic or perspex headlights and tail lights. I think that adds another element to the casting altogether in terms of realism. And again, I'll show you the Hot Wheels, which has painted on headlights. I mean, look, they look fine enough at a distance, and the tail lights painted on at the rear there. But then the Mini GT has actually inserted perspex headlights, which gives the casting a much cleaner look, a much more realistic look. And then you see the plastic inserted tail lights there as well. So I'm excited to get this open. So let's open it up, and we'll take a look right now. Now I've got the shrink wrap off. That was quite a difficult shrink wrap. Maybe that's part of what you're paying for in terms of when you're purchasing a Pop Race. So just for your perspective, Hot Wheels premiums, they run anywhere between $6 to $10 per casting as a rule of thumb. Then you're looking at a Mini GT, which is probably about $12 to $20. But then you've got a Pop Race, which is much higher on that budget, which you're looking at $25 to $40 depending there. Now, the other thing that I'm not sure about this casting is this has any moving parts or any opening parts. I know that some of the first models that Pop Race came out with, they had opening bonnets and boots and things like that. But we will definitely see. There is a nice, real nice finish to this box. So there's like a gloss varnish that's been put on the case itself. So the box itself is actually really high quality. And then there's some great artwork on here. And then I cannot read that. Okay, so let's open it up. So while I am, I may as well a thing or two that, so the R34, they were in production in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this is really what I see like the prime time of the JDM era, was the late 90s. Anyway, here we go. Here is the casting itself, and wow, look at that. It's a beauty. This is very nice. And first thing I see are those side mirrors. That is extremely exciting. That's great. That's the first tick off the off the uh, off the criteria. We've got some decent looking. Look at those side mirrors. They're huge. They stick out like King Charles's ears. That is amazing. That looks fantastic. So now this particular casting, this has a very chrome finish on the deckling, so it's quite reflective, and I'm not sure how that's going to really appear on the camera, but I think it looks great. It can be a little bit distracting in the lighting, but that's this particular casting that I was able to find. Pop Race do a lot of JDM castings, so which is a really nice thing, as I'm a big fan of JDM cars. So and then there was when I was purchasing this one, there were a few versions, or there was another version or a slightly different paint job of the R34, but I did think that this looked a bit nicer in terms of what we were looking at. So, but yeah, so let's have a bit of a closer look here. There are some things that I'm seeing straight off the bat. So we do have rubber wheels, which is great, and actually they spin really well. So we might have really good playability with this. And you'd sort of hope that with a company called Pop Race, it does make you think. I did think that this would be like a raceable premium diecast. We've got a bit of carbon fiber painting on the top, and these cool roof racks for this wagon. And it looks like this bonnet is openable. I might need to get a little tool under that. But before we get there, let's have a look. So we've got some headlights that are inserted plastic as well, so that's nice to see. And I guess this is actually something that is a bit different to the artwork that we actually see on the box, is the front grille. So the front grille, it doesn't have that detail there, which is a little bit disappointing. So as I try and just keep it in focus for everyone. So we've got I like how they've put you've got the Nismo there. It's different again from what you're actually getting in the box. But the GTR, that's not very clear. The GTR logo that sits in the grille, there's not a lot of detail in that. Now this bumper is plastic. It's a bit of a plastic finish. It feels like a plastic finish, but then I think this is plastic attached onto the die-cast metal. So that is fine, and that's actually quite nice. And it just sort of adds to it. But yeah, that not having clarity on this GTR logo, which you can see, I'll show you. In the miniGT, it's very small, obviously, but you can see that there, and it's actually tiny, but you can see it, and that's a really nice touch on the miniGT. Well, let's make our way around the car. We'll look at some of the decals. So yeah, I think the decals are high quality. I mean, you got this carbon fiber sort of decal finished. We talked about this chrome, reflective chrome, and then we've got all the Nismo decals. We've got Bridgestone there, and it's all nice and legible. We've got the Shell logo as well. So I think they've done a really good job there. I was a bit apprehensive coming into opening this and looking at Pop Race. I did think they wouldn't look as realistic, and they're a bit too much like a toy rather than a model car, but I think that actually stands up pretty well. And what I'll actually do is I'll put up on screen now a photograph of a real life R34 wagon, so you can actually see how close that it actually is. Coming around the back, actually before we get to the back, we'll look at the windshield wipers. That's a nice little detail that more and more castings are starting to do. I mean, Hot Wheels even does it, which is a nice surprise. So it's just a little addition on the windshield that you get. miniGT have the same. They've just integrated it into the black frame that's around there. Very hard to see. You probably can't see it on the camera itself, but in real life it's certainly there. But here these look great and they just stand out there. It's just another little addition that actually make the casting what should be like a premium casting. Yeah, so coming around the back, we've got the rear tail lights. So as with the wagons, the Skyline wagons, we've got inserted, and instead of having round, like as the synonymous R34 round tail lights, we've actually got these more squared off and complete finished tail lights with the indicators as well. And we've got in the number plate section, we've got a nice little Nismo logo too, and a rear windshield wiper, which you'd want with any wagon as it is. So definitely a fast wagon. The exhaust is a nice touch with the chrome finish on that exhaust there. Similar to what miniGT have done, though the one thing which is a little bit disappointing is the flat bottom. So I'm not particularly a fan of the flat bottom. I know Cardo House do flat bottoms, but they do it with an iridescent paint, which adds to it. But then also there's very little, or there's absolutely no detail on here as well. So if someone was to just pick up this car and say, hey, what is that? You know, it's nice to say, great, cool, it's a Pop Race, it's made by Pop Race, but why does it not say R34 Stagia on it, or Stagia? Someone can correct me on how that is pronounced, but R34 wagon at the very least. Because if you don't know, it's nice to be able to pick up a car and know. And I think that's what miniGT do well. They don't do it on all their castings, but on this particular one, it does let you know that this is a 99 R34 or GTR R34. So that just for anyone that wants to pick up any particular car, they actually know what they're looking at. So yeah, I think that is a beat that's been missed by Pop Race, and it's a bit boring as well. As you can see, we got a full look at the undercarriage on the miniGT model too. So yeah, where do I think it stands? Look, I think the finishing is really nice. I think there are some additions that let this stand out from a Hot Wheels Premium. Probably the number one being side mirrors and inserted headlights and taillights. The rubber wheels are nice, and they spin actually really well, and that is actually really good playability. So that playability might even stand up against Hot Wheels. I don't know if you've seen more videos on the channel, you know that playability is a big piece. That I'm not really a fan of having a car just sitting on a table or in a shelf somewhere. I think you want to be able to move it around a bit, roll it around the table at least, and play with it a bit. So you might be able to hear, or maybe it's not quite loud enough for the microphone. There's a little bit of a rattle from the miniGT, but the playability is still good. However, I think the Pop Race, it does feel like it's a heavier casting. Well, similar, but then I think they've got their axles and their wheels right. That we're actually getting really nice, smooth playability. And then up against the Hot Wheels, I think perhaps very similar. It'd be very hard to put these apart. But maybe I think I actually like the Pop Race a little bit more. Because there is a little bit of whistle from this Hot Wheels, but maybe because this is a much older casting. So let's have a look if we can open this hood. I'm not sure, hood, bonnet, whatever you guys call it. I mean, it looks like it's a separate piece, and I do know that other R34s that Pop Race have come out with has been opening. Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. There we are. Okay, so we've got an opening bonnet hood trunk. Do you call it trunk? I don't know. You can let me know what you guys call it, but we call it a bonnet in Australia. You open up the bonnet, and then we've got the engine in there, and that looks great. It's obviously it's painted well, painted red. We got the red finishing on it, a bit of chrome. I'm just going to grab it a bit closer up here to see if I can see. Does it have any? Is there any Nismo or any other detail? There's some very fine detail in there. I'll probably have to look at that with a magnifying glass. It's so small. But yeah, if there are any doubts, is this a premium diecast? 100% it is. I mean, that's a lovely little feature to have. Cardo House do it well. Unfortunately, miniGT don't. But then that does set apart miniGT and Cardo House. Also, the Cardo House scale is slightly different compared to miniGT. But yeah, so that is a great little feature to have that just adds a little bit extra to the casting and more detail, which really sets it apart from the competition. It's a nice little feature. Moving parts. Let me know, what do you guys think about moving parts when you get castings with moving parts? Is it a win, a lose, or you don't really care? All right, so let's measure these castings now, and then we'll have a look. We'll do a little bit of math, and we'll work out what the scale is. Now, just looking at them visually, I can tell straight away that the Hot Wheels Premium is out of scale. My guess is to say that that's probably maybe 1 to 58 or something, because it is quite a bit bigger. So this is actually measuring in at about 7.5 centimeters. So 75, 70, 74. I mean, you are starting to get down like really, really small amounts here. Well, let's give it, it's not quite 75 mil. Let's give it 74 mil. Okay. So 74 mil. Now the length of a Skyline sedan is 4,600 mil. So that 4.6 meters, or I think it's about 180 inches if you work in that system. So then if we just do the math quickly, we've got 4,600 divided by 74. We're looking at, okay, a 1 to 62 scale. So that's actually not as bad as what I thought it might be. So that's 1 to 62. Okay, so now then comparing the miniGT, which I know to be closer because it's miniGT, but it may not necessarily be 1 to 64. It could be one. I've seen a few 163s, 165s. That extra point makes a bit of a difference when you're trying to have a collection that all sort of fits together. I do think the wagon looks a little bit smaller than I thought it would be. It certainly is narrower, and you can see that with the pop race. I think that, I don't know, maybe you guys think I'm a bit crazy. Is that narrower? Well, it's about the same. And we'll try it like a wheel to wheel. The wheel to wheel line up, they line up. There you are. So they are the same. They're pretty much the same width, or at least the wheel width is the same. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something that's a little bit different. Now, the wagon is 4,800 mil, so it's about 20 centimeters different. 4,805 mil, so let's call it 20 centimeters, or 20 centimeters and a half difference in length, being a bit longer. So we'd expect it to actually be longer, and it is. How much longer is that? I don't know. And we won't measure the rear wing. We'll actually measure to the end of the bumper. There isn't any excessive body kits on these, so it's pretty stock. So we're not going to have that throw out in our measurements at all. So let's take a look at the miniGT first. So right at the back of this ruler starts at 0, which is helpful. 69.5 mil. Which makes math a bit harder than what it should be, but why can't we just deal with round numbers? So I think it's 69.5, or is it 60? Let's do it again. Let's have a look. So measuring that again, we're at 7. Where's 7? Here we are. Where are we? Right at the back. Oh no, we're over 7. Okay, yeah, it's measured twice. So we're looking at probably pretty tight to see. That's 72. 72. So we're looking at 72 mil. So then we're getting 63.88888. So yeah, that's pretty much 1 to 64. Okay, so we're bang on there. So the miniGT Skyline 1 to 64 or 1 to 63.89 if you're really particular. We'll just call it 1 to 63.9. So yeah, anyway, let's see where the wagon ends up. So the wagon length is 4 meters and 80 centimeters and a little bit. So we'll put that in calculator and then we'll measure. So what are we landing on here? Okay, so we are longer, so we are at about, that's 75 mil there, 76, 70. It's microscopic. I do need to get like a calipers to, I think, to measure these, I think, from now on. Get a bit more accurate because yeah, it comes down to the millimeter. So we're looking at 76, 76 and a half. I'll give it 77. Let's see what 77 does. Yeah, right. Okay, so we're way under. This is coming in at 62.4. So it's slightly bigger than what it should be, which, look, I would look at it. Maybe I'll just, let's measure it again. See if I give it the same. Or maybe, oh no, I was measuring that off the rear wing, which I said I wouldn't do. So let's have a look at 75. So let's call that 75. Okay, 64 in the nose. Look at that. So yeah, if we don't measure from the rear wing, I mean, there's a tiny bit. That's not even 2 mil over. That's not much. And then if we get just off that bumper bar there at 75 centimeters, or 75 mil rather, 7.5 centimeters, you are 1 to 64.066. So to scale. Okay, so that's my ruling, to scale. I think for the next video, what I'll do is I'm going to invest in some, calipers that measure the millimeters exact, because yeah, when we're getting down there, very hard to read on this, and hey, we may as well do this accurately as well, or as accurately as possible. But in my book, for mine, Pot Race is definitely a premium casting. One thing that they could do better is a better base, and at least have what the casting is on the base. I could get there with a pen and I could write on it. Great added feature is this opening bonnet or hood or whatever you call it. And then the detail is there. The detail is great. Playability is awesome. Just look at these wheels spin. That's effortless. And the rubber wheels, and it's a quality build. I mean, there's not a lot of rattle, even with this moving part here. So that is really good. Well done, Pop Race. So I do think when you're out looking for these castings, obviously Skylines, they're very popular, so they're hard to find at the best of times. You'll see a lot more R34s across the brands in the sedan model. I think there's sort of, you've got Pop Race that does the wagon. I think maybe I've seen Inno do one, Inno 64 do one. But there's, it's rarer or harder to get. So if you're looking for finding a hard to find sort of, or a rare run of a JDM wagon, the R34 wagon is certainly the way to go. And it's great, and probably for the extra price, that is, that's right there. So maybe what I'll do is let's have another look at a Pop Race. We'll see what else we can find, because I do like them. I will be getting more Pop Race. I think the box artwork is great. I think the castings are really good. I think the quality, like, really, I'd give it 10 out of 10 for quality. I mean, the only downside I see is the base here of having absolutely nothing. But quality wise, I mean, the quality's there. Like, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. Like, it's a good build. It's a bit like the miniGT. Let's just check these side mirrors. The side mirrors are plastic and they've been glued on, whereas some miniGT models actually have rubber, and these particular ones are like a rubber side mirror, and they're a bit soft, a bit flimsy. But yeah, I mean, it's a quality purchase. I can recommend it. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think. What are your thoughts? Where does Pop Race fit in the world of premium diecasts? Is it better than miniGT? About the same? Or should I be doing a comparison with Pop Race and Carter House? Is that a fair comparison? I think let's do that. And then we'll start looking at some other castings. Let us know what other brands that you want to see. I'm keen to get some more tarmac works, because obviously Pop Race competes with miniGT, tarmac works, Inno64. I mean, those real premium brands. All right, until next time, guys. Yeah, let's chat in the comments. Have a good one. Bye.